contemporary, rap, country. Is there country Christian music? That's the one I can't do is country.
Sure. Be hounded. I'm just kidding.
You're moving them around, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was the one that I thought about the most.
Really? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we'll start off with the one you were thinking about the most then.
Oh my
Who are you?
It took some time to think about who I am. So I think who I am obviously is most commonly I'm a child of God. I'm definitely a father of two. I'm a husband. I like to think, like, as far as characteristics, I think most commonly I'm a gentle spirit, you know, definitely a loving spirit, and always a serving spirit.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Also, probably your name would be good.
Oh, James Hutchinson?
James Hutchinson.
Yeah.
He's a worship leader at our church. What started you off as a worship leader? How did you get started in this?
Man, awesome. So, this is so as a kid, I've always enjoyed music. I've always enjoyed instruments. But I think, you know, without going into great detail about it, but I think for me, what soothed me most as a young child, going through struggle, hardship, was music. And that's what always kind of brought me close to Christ, even at a young age where I was still learning about God. It was through worship music that gave me the understanding of who He is and what He has for me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Or I guess that's the next question: is how long have you been doing worship in our church in particular? So River Lakes. Let's see. Well, you can do both. I mean, whatever you want.
River Lakes. I think I've been there 12 years. I think I've been there 12, 13 years.
It's over half my age.
I started I don't know, when was that? I'm not very much of a mathematician.
Me neither. You're asking the wrong person for the math questions.
No.
This is actually asked by somebody because I put on my story a couple times what you guys wanted to know about this kind of topic, and so these were the responses. So put his comment right there when I edit it later. Where's the line between worship performance, like a concert, and a worship service?
I think a worship. That's a great question. I think a worship concert would be, because I know that there's certain things about a service that can become distractful. You know, there's been a lot of talk about fog or a lot of things going on in the background that kind of takes away from the whole
fog.
Yeah, the fog that kind of comes up from the stage and
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you meant getting
lasers, light shows, that kind of stuff. I think that
Silas would have a heart attack.
I know. More of a performance. It's about worship. What are you going there for? Are you going there to worship? Are you going there to see a show? Generally, when I personally like to go see worship artists, I honestly don't feel like they're, depending on the ones that I'm seeing, they're not performing. You know, they want to lead worship. You come into a room and you're there to worship Christ, and the leader, whoever's leading, is leading with the intent of worship, leading worship. It's totally different from maybe joining others in a performance to lead the song. Perspective from when you're in your car and you're listening to say some song from Skillet on the radio. You know what I mean? It's worship intent, right? So it's talking about the gospel. It's talking about scripture. But
Still
is
for
it
worship press?
right? But is it praising God? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it worshiping God? So I think that's where the line is. Okay.
So I wanted to touch on one of the ones I was interested really badly in hearing your like opinion on, because me and my boyfriend actually were like debating back and forth between like controversial worship songs, which you can go look them up if you don't want to, but there's like a couple examples here. But what are your opinions on these songs and why do you think they're so controversial?
Okay.
So the first one is Reckless Love, because that's probably the most recent one.
Yeah. We break down songs, so like, you know, the bridge might be catchy or the chorus might be catchy, and it's so common for Christians to be like, oh my gosh, like this speaks to me, this is amazing. But what what it comes down to is like truth. You know, you really gotta like take the time to like really understand lyrics and read lyrics and understand them. Like, is it speaking truth? Is it speaking gospel? You know, and I think it really just pinpoints the word reckless. You know, like there's nothing reckless about Christ. You know, like he's you know, he's all knowing. He knows exactly what he wants. He loves. You know, unlike we can understand. There's nothing reckless about that. So I think that could be misconstrued in a lot of angles. So I think as far as the reason why that song is being
controversial,
is because that it's really it's not really what God is, and you know, that has something to be said about music that is that you're listening to, and make sure that it's truth. You know, it's of God. It's everything about Him and of Him. So
worship blasphemy.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'll probably put it up somewhere up here. I don't remember the exact thing, but I think like a lot of I heard that it got a little more out of control after that. Like he tweeted something about the song because people were like bothering him about it. So he was like, he said something and somehow it made it worse. I don't remember what it is. Yeah,
I remember that too. I don't remember exactly what he said. But yeah, I totally remember that. I think sometimes certain styles of worship music, depending on certain churches, it's like an emotional, like a roller coaster, so to speak. You know, like they try to present like a perfect, I don't know, kind of like layering a birthday cake. You know what I mean? It gets away from like the true gospel and Christ, and I just I think it's important to just focus on truth. Truth. One word, truth.
Truth. Always going back to that.
Focus on truth, focus on lyrics, really, you know, dive in. And if there's something that doesn't really, it's a gray area, then
Yeah. Mikey used to say, our old not worship, oh my gosh, I'm just stuck on the topic. Our old youth pastor for a while used to say, just like stick with the main and plain, you know, get into the gray areas. Forgot to ask the other two songs that I was going to talk about that are controversial. The second one that I was going to ask is How He Loves Us, the sloppy wet kiss original line, and then them changing it to, what did they change it to?
Unforeseen.
Unforeseen kiss.
Yeah. So I think the reason why is, I think it's just to each his own. I think in certain churches, the only reason why that is the way it is, Crowder originally wrote that song.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it Crowder? Okay, I didn't know who originally.
Yeah, so it was David Crowder. That, as far as, let's just call it corporate worship, certain traditions, certain styles in certain churches, you know, they definitely don't want to cause it a distraction. So I think the chorus
of giggles every single time we...
Exactly. So myself personally, it doesn't bother me. I don't sing it right now that way. So either way.
Well, especially since we do a lot of the junior high and high school. They're very like anything to do with that is like.
Exactly. You know, that's a great way to put it. Like, you know, are they at an age to where they can understand, you know, the differences? So sometimes it's just best just to kind of make it a little simpler.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one for that was the prayer. This is probably the most controversial. Was the Prayer by Kings K.
Is that the one where he's cussing?
They curse in it, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's not even like light cursing either. It's like
it's pretty heavy, man. I just don't, and this is just my personal opinion, everyone.
Well, yeah, that's why.
Yeah. So I feel that, you know, if that is something that he wanted to write, and, you know, that's obviously between, you know, that's between him and God. I strongly feel like he shouldn't have put it on there, just because I felt like, you know, I understand he wanted to reflect pain and he wants people to understand. As an artist, you know, you want people to see like what you're going through, but as a leader, as a worship leader, like I feel like he needs to focus on like what he's trying to do. You know, is he trying to lead people in worship, or is he just trying to like show people for who he is? I don't know, man.
I've heard both sides. I've heard people say like either they really loved it because he like had this like conditional like way of like expressing emotion, and so some people really like that, and then I've had other people that are like, well, it's again back to that distraction thing. It's like really distracting from
super distracting.
Yeah, that's like a big whoop.
I think that if he was really trying to focus and push people towards Christ, that definitely isn't a gospel-centered song. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's between him and God. I'm not here to judge or to tell him that's right. My personal opinion, I think if he's in the gospel worship and he's trying to like worship to people,
stay in that, you know, genre.
Yeah, like don't do that. Don't do that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a question. I'll put that up there. But it was. What considerations do you give when making a set list or like a music set list for a worship?
Awesome.
Both worship nights and like congressional, I guess. You know, every week.
Making sure that jockey's alongside of what's being taught or you know, preached, you know, however you want to say it, that Sunday morning. You know, making sure that, you know, it's gospel centered, you know, exactly right on point, you know, definitely intertwine that music or whatever song that is, you know, in with, you know, whatever. Can I just say Nick Brown, whatever he's teaching?
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever Nick,
Yeah. So that's super, super important because obviously, you know, learning or worshiping Christ and through certain song, and then that goes right into, you know, worshiping through Scripture. And when you intertwine those two things, I mean, it just really drives home the point.
I remember we went to a worship camp at Hume Lake called Ascend, and they were talking about, like, I don't remember what it was because I don't usually pick set lists. I'm a bassist, so I just kind of do whatever they want me to do. And then ka-chow, talking about, like, the different orders of, both they were talking about, like, I don't know if that's too complicated to talk about, but, like, every other week or every 3 weeks, like introducing a new song versus playing like older songs that the congregation knows.
I like that, man. I like administering new music because I think as we learn songs, right? I mean, they obviously touch our heart, and sometimes it's through maybe even traditional music that touches our heart and our spirit, our soul. Tons of artists out there, worship artists or leaders, or that, you know, really bring God's love in a totally different perspective. Singability. You know, you definitely don't want to be
picking the keys. I think we talked about that too.
Where you're capable of singing. I think that's most important.
We're not going Whitney Houston on this.
You know, singability, sing where everyone else you feel is, you know, that can sing along. And then most importantly, I love bringing music that people know. So the more voices, the more worship is really what we want, right? So we want people worshiping. And when they feel comfortable with the song that they're singing, they're not just singing words or they're trying to follow along attentively, but they're actually really
putting that heart into it.
Yeah, man. Playing an instrument or a bass and not looking at your, you know, you already know the
you already
notes.
know what you're playing.
Yeah,
that's another controversial thing we can talk about is some people say that having the sheet music up, that you shouldn't do that you should like not have it while you're not performing, but while you're like doing worship. What do you think about that? Like getting rid of those versus keeping them. Like,
I think that can go both ways. You know, when you're leading worship, like you want to lead worship, right? You want to do the best of your capability, and I think that it's very, very important to also worship. You know, when you're up there trying to be going by the script, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard for people to see. You need to be making sure that you're being led by the Spirit in what you're doing, but also fanatical about, you know, with the intent of worshiping. So if we're not worshiping, what are we doing? You know? Then I guess that we are
band,
performing artists.
orchestra. this is more of just a personal preference that I'm just wondering what you have. Do you prefer like older hymns or like the modern / contemporary stuff? Like which do you prefer?
Yeah, so I've changed over to all Christian music. That's all I listen to, and that's a choice, just because that's just my personal choices. Yeah. I love traditional music. I love contemporary music. I love rock Christian music. I love even rap Christian music. It's traditional
love to see you go up and rap something like Lecrae.
Right. I try to get Nate Dicker to do that.
He should. He should.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. So I'm
gonna bother him to do that.
I know.
I love the King's K version of Come Thou Fount. I think that's like one of my favorite things, where it's this modern kind of style, but it's like the old hymns too.
Totally.
Just something personal that I really wanted to know, because I have this and I'm wondering if it's ever happened to you. What's your worship leader worst nightmare, and has it ever come true?
Yeah. Not that. For me, it would be like uncontrollably sneezing. Like all of a sudden you like start to like sing or whatever, and then you just get this sneeze, and you're sneezing and you sneeze into the mic, and then oh my gosh, like that would be so embarrassing. It would take everything I have just to kind of
just like
pull myself together.
Show myself.
Yeah. Anything like sneezing, burping, I think that would be just like
that would be so funny.
Oh man.
Just like a belch.
Messing up.
Oh, the over.
Yeah. That's not what we're there to really focus on.
Or dropped chords.
Or dropped chords. Or a string breaking. Ding.
Oh yeah. That's happened a lot. Mine personally, and this has actually happened, this thing going off
the
middle of it was in the middle of high school worship, and it was in the middle of the song too, and it went off.
Is it
and
loud?
It was like, yeah, it's like 1 sec. Okay.
Yeah.
And it just gets louder. And so it's like, yeah, that happened in the middle of it. And it was when I was singing background too. So it was like the mic was picking it up, and that was so embarrassing. And I had to like stop playing bass.
When that goes off.
Well, it's not that bad. It's telling me that I'm not getting food, which is important to know, but it's like so annoying. And I was like still singing background, so I had to like put the bass down and was like trying to sing while I'm like, it just
oh my gosh.
That was like mortifying. And then it wasn't that bad, I guess. I don't know.
I bet you no one really even heard it. I mean, especially if you got drums or cajon going and 100% amplified when anything happens to you. Like you think that everybody hears, like, or if you make a mistake, like generally a lot of the time people don't even notice. They really don't. I believe I did that. Like, man, I didn't even hear you do that. And like, oh, okay, perfect. But
that's always
on
funny.
Stage you're like, oh.
Even like other people like that are playing on the set that week. Like I'm always worried they're gonna judge me too, because they're also instrumentalists, and so I'm like, they heard that, they're gonna judge me, but they don't.
That's why I really enjoy praying before we practice or before we even start.
I didn't really know what to answer for it, so I don't know if you will either, but he said, why don't we see more types of instruments in like the worship band?
Oh man. I am a huge advocate for more instruments. Like, just for one, like, I wish there was somebody in our church that would actually play like an electric violin. Have you heard those?
Yeah, one of the girls at Ascend, they had like one of the bands come up for like the very end thing to give them like a little tips and stuff like that, but they had an electric violinist, and it was so cool.
Where everything just kind of falls out and they're playing an electric violin, and it's like one of the most like, oh my gosh, like, and I think, you know, there are instruments out there that are just phenomenal. You know, it's just all about, you know, who feels good about playing those instruments and learning it. I, for one, love to bring new instruments as long as they're not distracting. You know what I mean? Again,
and then there's
so it's got to come
side
together.
Of that. The flip side is, I remember one time, those of you probably in high school probably remember this, that Eva and some other people, they decided, I don't remember what the context was, but they decided to bring kazoos.
It was a Citizen song.
Was it a Citizen?
Yeah. I think it was a Citizen
was it
song.
Made Alive that they tried to do?
I think it might have been Made Alive.
I don't remember what song it was, but comment below if you remember, but they just decided to do kazoos, and it kind of like fell out the window, and it was really, you know, distracting and just
it sounded great.
I don't even know what happened. I wasn't there, so. When
she brought it out, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna sound awesome. The only problem is everyone started busting up like on stage when she started blowing into it, and I saw the heart behind it, but it was a Velvet track. Yeah. stick clacking is starting to become really popular. Or if it's not stick clacking, it's like hitting a block of wood. So I've heard that a lot in newer contemporary music, and I absolutely love it.
Another one I've noticed, I think Citizens does this, or no, it's not Citizens, it's Eagle and Child.
Oh yeah.
Does the saxophone.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
The tenor.
That's pretty cool.
The tenor.
Just like, yeah.
So it's so cool to see that, like for them to administer the tenor. I played saxophone when I was a kid, so I love the saxophone. Yeah. You know, yeah, I would have to definitely brush up on that, but I did it for like almost 7 years.
See, you can do it.
Yeah.
James for sax. James for sax.
You can't sing and play sax, so I don't always have to sing. Right.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all the questions. Did you have any more you thought of, or any other last minute things you wanted to add before we end the section?
Focus on what you're listening to, the lines, what they represent, you know, is it of God? And yeah, traditional, contemporary, rap, country. Is there country Christian music? That's the one I can't do, is country. I've never been country.
Yeah, I've never been country either. That has been the video. Thank you, James, for coming. Be sure to like this video if you like it and you like it, and leave a comment below for all the things that I said. I can't remember what I said. Thank you also again, James. I'm glad we finally got this, and I can't wait to see how this video turns out.
Awesome.
So thank you guys. See you next time for the next UME and Tea.